Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today we're back with tech entrepreneur Hayley Melidonis. Hey, Hayley, welcome back.
Thanks, Sophia. Great to be here. Excited for the convo.
Likewise, great to have you back. So, today I want to talk all about promotional events. So, Hayley, let's start with this. How can you effectively design a promotional event to authentically showcase a brand's unique value and create buzz around a promotional event, especially a new product or venture?
So one thing I would advise, or you can do, sometimes you can attach your event to a bigger event that's in that category. So at Bubble, my platform now, I've done, for example, we did a side event at the TechCrunch Disrupt a conference. We're running a program for South by Southwest right now where we're attaching housing to the South by Southwest event. So we were not, officially involved really with any of these, although we were an official side event of TechCrunch. So that was kind of the first thing I think you could do. But the second thing, and I draw back to when I had my heli ski company, I decided to create the world's first helicopter ski show. And the reason I did that was because helicopter skiing was quite mysterious. I was living in London. No one really knew what it was, but people were curious. They'd heard of it. And so I decided to create like the world's first show. And I decided to put something theatrical together. It was quite easy to do because it was something that there was buzz and people were interested in. But I got a really sexy hotel. I got some athletes. I got some brands together. And, one fed off the other, of course. And, we were started talking about storytelling. We used the event, we created content at the event to talk about like what heli-skiing is, what it isn't, why it's so fun. And we just got people enthused. So I think that was a good example of what you're talking about with promotional events.
So, what are key factors to consider when organizing events in different locations for international audiences to ensure that they still align with your brand?
Yeah, so key factors to consider when you're organizing international events. I mean, you've got to look, so firstly, culturally, and how do people attend events? Where do they go? What's appropriate? What time of day is appropriate? So you might be in a country where drinking culture is not a thing, so you don't want to have an event about drinking, for example, with drinking. So I think obviously the most important thing about events is people being accessible to your audience and making people interested to go and easy to go and creating that vibe about like who'll be there and why they should go. So people are giving up their time to come to your event. So it's important that, depending on the market you're looking at, and Japan might be very different to the UK, might be very different to, South America. I think you need to look at, accessibility, where the event is. If you're charging for the event, you need to look at obviously budgets and, can you get sponsors to, equal to get the ticket price to the right price. It's certainly when it comes to promotional events, this is what we talk about with Bubble. I think you need to make it easy for people to connect and get to know each other. One of the reasons they're coming to your event is not just for the content, they're coming to meet other people like them. And just to plug Bubble a little bit, we've created this new way to do events where we can actually offer event organizers like pop-up co-housing for the ones that are overnight events where they can get to know each other in the app before they even go to the event, and they can affordably connect and stay together and share together. Honestly, that's what it's about. So finding that thing, I think, in that market with that culture that would allow them to that will encourage them to go to your event the most. I must admit, I've done events in Australia, I've done them in the US, I've done them in the UK. I haven't actually run that many of my own events in like markets like Japan or Asia, although I have lived in those countries. So, but I just think you obviously want to make sure that you also manage attendees and the RSVPs. And the last thing I would talk about is FOMO. You want to create FOMO. You want to create the idea that, if you get in late, that you might miss out, that the tickets could sell out, that the ticket prices go up. I think you want to use all those tactics to create FOMO.
Yeah, those are great insights. And now I want to focus a little bit more on the partnerships and just building the event. How could you say that an author or an entrepreneur could leverage business partnerships to enhance their promotional events and reach new audiences?
Yeah, I mean, the formula is okay, who's got an audience that they want to reach that you're reaching? That's one thing. Who's got complementary audiences? So for example, there's a partner that I'm going to go in with probably for South by. They've got a company about sleeping. I mean, our company's about sleeping too in some ways. His company is about sleeping in hotel rooms for like 10 hours at a time between travel rests called Napa. And we talked about it because we're both like, sleeping overnight sort of like company solutions. So they're a complementary partner to us with the same sort of message about his new solutions to travel. And so that's why we think it'll be conducive for us to partner and run an event together. Definitely, there's a lot of brands out there that are looking for the right activations, they're called. And if you've got an audience or an idea, like I did with the heli thing, it was very easy for me because it was novel, it was sexy, it was fun. We could get the media there. We got champagne sponsors because who doesn't want to talk about heli skiing? In the case of Bubble, who doesn't want to talk about fun things like Bubble? Like, Bubble's effectively a fun brand and a fun company. Managing promotion. The only thing with promotional partners is it's time consuming to go get them sometimes. So there has to be like really strong fit and they have to have budget and all that sort of thing. So but the other thing is complementing. So for example, when I did the heli shows, we would have a clothing outdoor, kind of provider. We would have athletes who would bring the content that the people want to listen to. And we would have, a great hotel and, great, great sponsor of alcohol. That sort of a formula works, I find.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I want to, before I forget, touch a little bit on the first thing we talked about, kind of just the buzz of the actual event. So, Hayley, what are some innovative ways authors and entrepreneurs can incorporate interactive elements into their promotional events to really engage their audience and the people that are attending these events?
Yeah, this is an amazing question because I actually built a platform to help this. So Bubble is our platform about enabling communities to travel and get together and enjoy events together. And it's not just like a software app, it's actually this idea. So a bubble is the people, the experience, and possibly the stay, like where they're doing it, right? And I created this platform so that people who are, building a personal brand or, thought leaders can either attend bigger conferences and run what we call bubbles, which are like, kind of either co-living houses or just little side events. And they can do it through our bubble platform with the tools that we have, like the chat, the communication, the schedules. But here's the thing, it makes it inclusive. So when you join a bubble, what you are doing, so if you're running a bubble for you're getting your community together to engage with each other. And I think that's super important because people really value when someone can bring them together with other people like them. Example, you might be a dating coach and you might have all these people who are wanting to like learn how to date and everything. When you bring them together and you can get them to share with each other and learn from each other, that's super powerful. And that's kind of what my platform is kind of doing, bringing people into a bubble, into a safe space where everyone feels included and everyone can like share. And in the case of Bubble, you can, be in a co-living house, but you could be at a retreat, you could be at South by Southwest. So I feel like that's a super innovative and interactive vehicle. And we're even calling it like the future of conferencing, the future of events. So it'll be interesting to see, how people adopt it and use it, but I'm very excited by that.
Right. Now, Haley, I want to close with one last question. What are your biggest tips for attending a promotional event or conference as a guest?
Hmm. Okay, so I went to a conference last week, which was the National Ski Resorts Association conference. I went there to meet people who run ski resorts to talk to them about Bubble, which is, shared housing, helping, the ski industry has a big problem because like less younger people are doing it because it's so expensive. Well, guess what? Sharing is caring and Bubble helps with that. So at that conference, they had an app that you're in called Wova. And I got in there and I was actually on the leaderboard. There were like badges and tokens and all this stuff. And I was on the leaderboard. I was on the top 5 by the time the conference ended. So I got in the app and I got known. That's one thing. I'm very, what's the word? Outgoing. So I wore my Bubble t-shirt to the event the whole time. So I branded myself, even though actually I didn't get an exhibitor spot. I didn't have time. Or actually, they kind of had sold out, but it was good because it was cheaper for me. So I wore the Bubble t-shirt everywhere. And then the other thing that's super important, it's super important to show interest in people and learn. So I walked around the trade show and met lots of people that had nothing to do with like Bubble or, whatever. But what was great about it was I was getting feedback from my company from every single person I spoke to. I was learning what they thought about it. Some of them were volunteering like, oh, I know someone you should talk to. Here's my card. Or I know this is really, I geeked out on the actual stuff because I feel like every time you go to an event, you can learn from other people and they can learn from you. And that's the super important thing because you're not just there to push your thing. You're there to be part of it, to be included and take, get amongst it. And, serendipitous things will happen. They always do. That's why people go to events. That's why I created Bubble, because you can meet your husband in the kitchen. Serendipitous things happen when you've got that attitude.
Oh, I love that, Haley. I think that's a great point that when you're going to events, it's obviously about what you're trying to represent, but also just meeting the people. And you never know who could become a client, who could connect you to somebody else that you'd really need along your business journey, along your branding journey, and all the above. So thank you again, Haley, for that wonderful insight on promotional events.
You're welcome. It was great. Fun talking to you.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's interview with tech entrepreneur Hayley Melidonis. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.